All right, so Ms. Gilly, do we have a draft ready to go?
I do not believe that we do.
Dang.
Oh, we do indeed.
Oh, awesome.
Gotcha. Everyone's off guard. Ooh.
Yes.
So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the hero draft as we go into Tomb of the Spider Queen, Pool Plato, some Tangos onto the left, Cloud9 Vortex onto the right, and this is a map that we've actually been seeing quite a bit of here today.
I've got one word for you guys.
All right.
Asmodan.
Asmodan.
Who's going to deal with it? Who's going to pick it up?
I agree with it as well, and I think if we don't see it in the ban, somebody is going to pick it up, especially maybe with that Johanna to help build up those stacks and the taste for blood, the Globe of Annihilation. But for right now, we're looking at the ban so far. We do have Kael'thas, so another late game-oriented hero going to be taken out here, as well as, of course, Zeratul.
Yeah, Zeratul has a very popular second ban, and guess what? The only game we saw him in, he won. Probably going to remain as a second ban.
I can do some of that Jake math. I can do it. I think that's 100%. That is 100% awesome. Win rate. Got it. Yes.
Love you, Jake. All right. Jaina coming into this, Pool Plato, some Tangos. They're not new to this game. They will pick up the bursty Ice Mage herself. But Johanna and Zagara, what does Johanna usually mean for us?
It usually means the Asmodan. I'm a little bit impressed here that we do have the Zagara, but there's still the fear, right? They might be kind of baiting out that second ban to be on Asmodan instead, and maybe they've got something else up their sleeves with the Johanna Zagara so far.
Before we get to that point, though, we do have two more additional picks for Pool Plato, some Tangos. So we'll see what they're going to round that out with. They do have the Jaina available. You know, Kael'thas being banned out. We can't get the mage pairing, but we're going to start this off with Muradin Tyrande. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. These three heroes together make for a very scary roam squad. And of all the maps to do this on, I think this makes a lot of sense. Tomb of the Spider Queen, a very small battleground. And is very easy to rotate and put a lot of pressure on the enemy team.
Yep, it's definitely one of the smaller battlegrounds we have. It's easy to get from lane to lane. But both teams are actually threatening. I mean, we have Asmodan threat here from Vortex, but we have, you know, a big melee threat from Pool Plato, and it's actually Sylvanas ban from Cloud9. Oh, all right. Pool Plato send no dice. No Asmodan today. No
Asmodan indeed. And now I am wondering, I thought maybe we'd see the Uther ban from Vortex to try to stop maybe that chain stun into stun from Pool Plato, but maybe Vortex looking to pick him up themselves as a support. So far, they're going to get Vala, so they're going to have a lot more sustainable damage, especially between Zagara and Vala, and now they're going to grab Tassadar.
Well, you can't really say too much against Oracle, especially with Mental Acuity, level 4 QB. It just really gives you a lot of freedom of vision.
Yeah, they've been very much prioritizing grabbing these vision-style heroes. Even in their set earlier in the day, that was absolutely the case against Goon Squad. Okay, but we have that. I mean, that is a scary, scary draft that Pool Plato, some Tangos has picked up with the Uther. There's so many stuns available in the lockdown. They've provided a good bit of supporting role for Butcher. I mean, that's going to be tough to deal with.
Gilly reading Pool Plato, some Tangos like a book there.
That is like the perfect pickup that they could do if they were wanting to get the Butcher. Are you kidding me? They've got a stun from everybody except Jaina, who has slows, and then Numbing Blast at 16 to root. That is terrifying for Vortex, but Vortex have the vision, and if they can continue that, and they've even got Rhaegar as their support, that could be enough for them to be able to stave off all of that aggression.
It seems like it's aggression versus sustain once more. A little bit more zone control. I mean, Tassadar with the vision. We got the Maw, Blessed Shield from Johanna, the Condemned from Johanna. You can't be near Johanna in a team fight. It just doesn't ever work for you. So they have a lot of zone control, I think, to counter this, but you know, it's anybody's game.
I know. It's so weird to see Vortex really shifting their style. They used to be known for being such an aggressive team, and all of a sudden, all the games that we're seeing today have been, you know, let's take a step back. Let's make sure we have the vision, the control, mercenary camp control, you know, battleground control. Everything is just control, making sure that they have a great idea of what's going on around the map and less aggression.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we will see QB after the game. But coming into this, all right, KingPlato is just going to throw us a little bit of a curveball there. But, yeah, some leg is actually going to be decided. But, I mean, that's okay. We're going to let them settle it out. I'd much rather do it here at level 1 than anything else. We're going to give them a few minutes there. But Tomb of the Spider Queen, engage versus sustain. So far, sustain is almost always won.
Indeed, and I wanted to point out that with the Butcher, his Ruthless Onslaught, his charge, once you start that, it's just going to go. And so maybe if they can kind of play to that advantage, if Vortex can, they can kind of put that on somebody and then make sure to sustain them through maybe that Furnace Blast, something like that. Then all of a sudden they've got Butcher way out of position.
You know, we always talk about like Butcher, Furnace Blast. It's almost like saying Uther, Divine Shield. Whatever happened to Lamb to the Slaughter? I almost never see the fence post in any of this.
I know, definitely not in the competitive for sure. I mean, I'll see it sometimes, occasionally in games, but I think it's just a lot of the ability to just do so much damage, and the fact that you can throw it up and then hit that Ruthless Onslaught basically guarantees that you're going to be able to just eliminate somebody right off the bat.
All right, so as we do wait for the leg to settle here, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce our players since we have a little bit of time on our side at this point. So on the left-hand side, of course, was Cloud9, not Cloud9, Plato, Tango. On the right-hand side will actually be Cloud9. Of course, you are flipped, so that is why I'm really good at directions. But Prismaticism, Mookiez, KingPlato, bkid, and Apauloh, they're making up PPST, and you know what? It almost looks like they got their really favored heroes out of that, didn't they?
Oh yeah, bkid loves Muradin. He loves playing Muradin, and he's a beast with him too. We are going to have KingPlato playing Tyrande. Sometimes he likes to play Jaina, but of course they do have Apauloh playing that Jaina. It's going to be scary as well.
All right, so on the flip side, though, we talk about these guys a lot. Tazza, TigerJK, the new member right now of Cloud9 Vortex, at least for this tournament. Syracuse, Bobbyhankhill, and Zixz. Zixz Rhaegar is absolutely terrifying. It's really hard to take him down when you need to, but Bobbyhankhill on Tassadar, he plays a lot of Tassadar.
He does indeed, and he really likes to pick up that deep shift at level 7 within the Prescience and then the Dimensional Warp, and from that he can like hit that right away, get into the back line, and then totally just decimate somebody like Jaina.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And we, you know, it's almost like Bobbyhankhill is one of the few Tassadars that use that deep shift offensively, because you don't really see deep shift a lot. You know, an extra second and a half on your invisibility and invulnerability sounds like it's a shot in the barrel, but most people will actually, take Mule. They'll take Static Shock or Static Charge. They'll take any number of any things. But Bobbyhankhill with that deep shift, we'll have to see if that will come true today.
Yeah, I mean, you pair that with that Dimensional Warp later on at 16, and all of a sudden you can heal up so much more. It's like, oh, you drop low, Prescience hits, and all of a sudden you are shifted right back up into the full health.
It's really hard to take down a Tassadar that doesn't want to get taken down. I was listening to Tasteless back at the Heroes of the Dorm. It takes 50 years to take down a Tassadar sometimes. It's absolutely bonkers to try to take him down one-on-one situation, which is why he does get prioritized quite a bit. He's a great in lane, he's great sustain, he brings shields and Archon, a little bit of extra damage when you need to. Tassadar, once upon a time, you remember BlizzCon 2014, it was absolutely insane how much he was picked.
Yeah, and he's continued to be picked even with the sort of change with the patch. We had changes to promote in the last patch, and at that point he was really focused on laning and being in the lane and throwing out as many promoted minions as possible, but he still has his place, and now it's kind of evolved into more of that support, kind of an interesting support. I'm trying to think of the right word for what
Bruiser?
It would be. It's like a bruiser, damagey support, but he also just gives some very interesting talents and abilities to the battle.
Well, when I come into it, I like to think of it as a flex pick. What could this slot actually do? Could Tassadar fill a little bit of A, a little bit of B, a little bit of C, and he'll be flexible between those roles? A lot of the time, at least here in the high meta kind of stuff, you do actually see a big preference for the Tassadar. Now with the Tyrande actually coming back because of the Butcher patch, I mean, we've been seeing a lot more stun comps out of them. She is also a big flex, and both of those heroes are actually present here in this match. But unfortunately, they're like really the only two that can kind of do this. It does spark a lot of conversations, like should they still be labeled as supports? Should they have a new assignment? They kind of fill every single role depending on how they can play.
Yeah, and you can definitely build them into a lot of different ways. I like to call them the Sapassins.
Okay, that's a new one.
Yeah, they do some damage, especially with like a Hunter's Mark or the Archon as well, but they also have the supports. They've got the shield from Tassadar. We've also got the Light of Elune from Tyrande too. So like you mentioned, they just have a lot of different things that they bring to the fight, but one of them is, of course, Oracle on Tassadar. They're going to have a ton of vision, especially with that Zagara.
Yeah, the Zagara, the Oracle, I mean, as you say, the information control is going to be absolutely insane. We do have some information control ready to go on Tyrande with the Owl, but still, when it kind of comes down to it, the mental acuity at level 4 is just kind of seems to be the way to go a lot of the time for Tassadar, because 15 seconds off of a 45-second cooldown, which means, obviously, 2/3 of the time, you're going to have that up more often than not, and that is going to be a heck of a big vision radius. It's really hard to kind of catch a Tazza off by surprise. Even if you do, he just hits the button, goes off into the nether planes, and, well, who knows where he'll show up. He just kind of does a lot of things really well. So it does look like we're still just waiting for these guys to come back to us. But, you know, Gilly, we've been following Heroes of the Storm a long time. And now, ever since the game came out, we've been on a big meta push called the Eternal Conflict. And the Butcher was the recent push out of this one. We also have somebody else on deck coming up very soon. So not only have we seen Butcher, who else is actually coming up on the horizon, as in next week?
Well, very soon we are going to have Leoric, and that's going to bring a lot of interesting fights to the mix because we've seen his trait. It is actually where if he dies, he can actually use some of his abilities to shorten his respawn timer, and then he respawns right where he's at. So that's going to be very scary for a team who's up against him. But it looks like we are going to be able to check out a video of the battleground that we will be seeing in this next match. So without further ado, Forecourt Jester, take it away.
All right, so if you can't see the match itself, we'll just show you the map itself. So 3 lanes, it's a little bit of a smaller battleground as these guys have gone head-to-head here multiple times. And as you can see, some narrow corridors, some good jungle areas there, 4 mercenary camps as well to fight over. The big guy up into the top, you got those bruisers, and this is what we're going to be looking for these teams to do. Collect and turn in gems. How do you get those gems? Well, basically slaughter anything in your path at this point, minus the mercenaries. And once you get enough, you get these cute little guys, and they're going to be pushing every single lane, and that is going to be the web weavers. So take down your opponents, farm out those mercenaries, and by the end of it, with the help of the spiders, you too can be a spider lord, get the win, and now we're going to see which team will take that title.
All right, well, once again, guys, in case you've forgotten, this will be a best of 3 between Plato, some Tangos in the blue, and Cloud9 Vortex in the red, and we will be on Tomb the Spider Queen, like Sean just explained to us.
Got your back. Yeah, we will keep you guys apprised, of course, of everything that we can. But what are we seeing already? Well, a little bit of a scuffle there mid. A lot of the time, especially on these smaller maps, teams will kind of stick together earlier just to see what the opponents are going to be doing. And, well, more often than not, they kind of stick there as well. But now they've kind of fragmented into their other lanes. Tazza is going to be holding down top. Zagara bottom. We've talked about these guys. They're really good lane-sustaining specialists.
Oh, yeah, they definitely are. They're great at just being able to hold a lane by themselves. Of course, Zagara with the creep can be able to get a little bit of a movement speed bonus on it and can see if anything's coming her way. And Tassadar as well with the Oracle can see if anything's coming his way. He's got that dimensional shift if something should do so. And I think that's a good plan for them because Plato some Tangos does have that Muradin and Uther and Tyrande and Jaina and Butcher. All of them, any of them could be a member of a gank squad.
All right, so having bkid into that bottom lane there, that's not going to be good for Zagara whatsoever. Now, he's not going to win that lane, but he will control the creep spread with that Thunderclap. And as you can already see, he's kind of been pruning away at those creep tumors already. Not a lot of rotating here, at least early on, but at the same time, I have been seeing the Butcher's just kind of out of our vision towards the bottom. He's been sitting there for a while.
He has indeed, as he looks like he might be trying to pick somebody up. He actually did go for an Invigoration, so if Hamstring hits a hero, oh, and it does, he is going to be able to take down Zagara. Half the mana cost is refunded and the cooldown is reduced, but now Cloud9 Vortex maybe trying to go back in and pick up somebody of their own, but Plato are going to turn this around. A Lunar Flare goes down on that Apauloh, will be able to pick up the takedown on there as well. A 2-0 for Plato.
Patience pays off as Prismatic into the bottom lane. Started that off with that Zagara takedown, and then at the end of it as well, Vala to be joining her for a little bit of an experience boost now going the way of Plato. This very much fits into the playstyle that they were showing us earlier up against Tempo Storm. They love early aggression.
They do indeed, and especially when they can get that Muradin Vala. And I really like the way they've got their lane set up because no matter where that Butcher and Tyrande choose to go, they're going to be able to make something happen. They've got stuns from Uther, or slows from Jaina, or stuns from Muradin as well.
All right, look at that. Plato some Tangos, they're coming back into this. We've only been introduced to them for a month, but quite a few fans are rooting for them to take this game number 1. Cloud9 Vortex, a little bit of an older brand, are going to edge them out at 56%, but, that's a very split kind of vote.
It is indeed, and I think that just really lends to the fact of how well Plato did do versus Tempo Storm, and they're doing great here as well. They're half a level up. They've they've gotten a couple of early takedowns, and I don't see that rotation stopping from them anytime soon.
All right, as we go back and forth, level 4 now going to be here for both sides. Oh, that's some big slows right there. Johanna might be unstoppable, but she is going to take a bit of a timeout and think about what she's done, as she will respawn here momentarily. But level 4 is now into the level 5. We almost have an entire level lead for Pool Plato some Tango, but at the same time, they haven't really put a lot of gems into the bank yet.
Yeah, they really haven't. They've got... We've got none for Cloud9 Vortex. Pool Plato has turned in 13 as well. So not only remember that having these early takedowns also can possibly make your opponents lose some of those gems if nobody is really there, if you're kind of a solo laner, as nobody can come and pick up those gems before they unspawn.
All right, so as we have a little bit of a luau here, it does look like Vala is actually opting for a Hungering Arrow build. It's not multi-shot here today, and the Hungering Arrow, you see this a lot when you have big melee initiation, because, you know, especially with the Butcher, since he has to kind of charge forward in order to land his stuff, he's typically going to be alone. You throw up a Hungering Arrow and a little bit of extra health return for the duel situation, as well as an extra whole hit at that level 4 with that talent there. It can actually go a long way. Level 7, you can get the dive as well, reset it, and all of a sudden you have 8 arrows in your face.
You do. You have so much 1v1 potential, but unfortunately, they're not quite at level 7 yet, and their opponents have picked up those talents and their first Web Weaver spawn that we'll have in this game. So they're going to be looking to maybe just pick up some towers, get ahead in terms of experience a little bit, keep that lead, and hopefully have their heroic abilities before Vortex so they can continue this aggression, continue having this very open presence on the battleground.
All right, the level 7 advantage is going to be really good here. It does look like everyone is splitting up. Looks like every single lane is going to get pushed out. This could actually result in multiple towers, but past that, I'd be very doubtful to see if we even get down all 3 of these gates.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're just going to try to rotate around, maybe get some towers, like I mentioned, with the experience lead as well. A very good defense from Vortex. They've got that Skarda, they've got Tazza as well, and they've got Vala. So they've got a lot of heroes that can kind of throw out damage safely from behind the gates, and that does equal into it an extremely good defense. The Web Weavers are down. We got, looks like 1 tower there, and that's it.
Yeah, 1 tower, lots of low ammunition, which is actually now going to lead us into the second. There goes the gate into the bottom lane there as well, but the fact that there's no ammo in these is not itself that small of a feat, because no ammo means that, Bobbyhankhill into this Tazza, he's basically chained in here for the next little while, because anything that comes up to those towers are not going to be fired upon.
No, and what he would like to be doing is turning in. I think he had 28 gems on him already. That's a little frightening, but he is Tazza, so it's a nice one to have him on. But I think I see a rotation coming in, trying to grab him. He's immediately going to use the dimensional shift and won't be hit by the lunar flare, although it was very close.
So 28, that's a big target now on Bobbyhankhill's back. We're going to have to try to get some kind of big map presence so he can turn in safely. Still a big 0 right there in that coffer for Vortex. They're not very interested at turning in at all, which might actually be a big lie. They just don't have the pressure. They can't safely move out. They're down in the levels. They're about to be down a talent tier of those heroics. And at the same time, it's just how many takedowns? 3-0? PPST is, again, just kind of playing the early game.
Yeah, they definitely have shown their prowess in the early game. The nice thing about having 32 now gems on the Tazza is Bobbyhankhill did pick up that deep shift. So if he gets into trouble, he will be able to hit that, and it'll be a lot longer, hopefully getting away from those abilities from their opponent's team, all of the stuns that they do have. But Pool Plato on the cusp of getting their heroic abilities.
All right, so here they come. Those heroics abilities is going to be pretty much, I think everybody just looked at this. Here comes the Furnace Blast as Prismatic absolutely decimates out that valley with the help of the Tyrande setup. And there's the Water Elemental there as well. Avatar, Divine Shield, and Starfall still yet to be used, but we are really using this level 10. That's 32 gems, Cloud9. That is not something you can lose out this early, and a big target on Tazza's back indeed.
They even got him with the deep shift. Rhaegar is going to come in here. Zixz trying to grab them, and will be able to pick him up, so that is at least a relief, but it's still a problem. It's still 32 gems on 1 person, and now it's somebody who's it doesn't have that dimensional shift for sure.
All right, so a few plays actually going back and forth. I kind of expected PPST's number to go up a bit, but 5 kills nil. Hopefully they are not going to be falling into those traps that we saw from Tempo Storm. At the current, they still have that talent tier advantage. It's not going to be lasting too much longer, as Cloud9 Vortex is about to hit it here as well. But again, Vala with that Hungering Arrow build. We actually have battle momentum, not only on TigerJK, but Tazza as well.
Ooh, so they are going to be looking to make sure that they have those abilities up more often because they will be, the cooldowns will be reduced whenever they do use those auto attacks. But now we're going to have blue web weavers descending once again, so 2 in a row for Plato. They've really got a command of these lanes and these turn-in points.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that has kind of raided the bank at this point, and they will not have a third, at least currently they will not have a third ready to go for that, but still, pressure, pressure, pressure. Vortex very much on the back foot here, and remember, this is now the lower bracket game. A 1-0 can affect your mentality going into a very important game too, where if you lose, you're out.
Indeed it is, and another thing affecting their mentality is once again they didn't get the turn-in. So once again they're going to be picking up more and more gems and holding these high numbers on them. There it is, the 32 on Zixz and 27 on Tazza so far, and a very strong push in from Plato. They're going to be able to pick up the first 4 of the game.
They actually might even pick up the other 2. There's nobody defending those other lanes, and with this strong push mid, this actually could go anyway for Plato. Well, it looks like for now, they're going to try to get as much damage here on this keep gate, which, you know, why not? There's still about a quarter hit points left on that spider, but the other 2 lanes, they can easily splinter off and try to seal the deal for a triple fort on this turn-in.
Yeah, that was a perfect distraction. Look how much these have taken down. The top fort's going to go down all by itself, and boom, right at the same time, the bottom one goes down as well. Triple fort, 3 forts in 1 turn-in. Yep. That is an awesome turn-in for Plato.
That now leads us to a 2-level lead for these guys. This is commanding, a very commanding early game from these guys. We do actually have an ice block coming out from Jaina. I was hoping, beyond hope, we would see an Icy Veins, but it's just too much to give up that defensive. Shrink Ray as well as the Crave Flesh. My apologies.
Yeah, so while an enemy is affected by the Butcher's Brand, you gain 30% movement speed, as if that doesn't make the Butcher more terrifying already. But it's pretty interesting to see that Shrink Ray prioritized over the Overflowing Light for Tyrande. I guess they feel like they're already being healed up, and they just want to be able to use that for the slow, making sure that they can really take somebody out or keep the damage down as well. But Plato looking to maybe pick up this boss here.
They have the map, they have the power, and at this point, there's no way, even if Cloud9 Vortex knew they were coming in, they're down an entire level tier, and if they lose, that's how many gems now out of that bank? 70, 80, 90 gems. Like, they have a ridiculous amount on those survivable heroes, but of course, they're the ones that actually have to do that engaging. So, boss, into the top, no problem. Cloud9 still getting denied on these turn-ins. It is not going their way.
Plato was completely spread out there. They had members in the bottom turn-in. They had members up at the top picking up the boss, and they still were able to stop that turn-in. That's huge. Now they're going to have a boss applying pressure to that keep wall as well, and this is going to afford them a lot of luxury around this battleground. It looks like they might try to counter push moving in toward the bottom as well.
Oh man, if we're setting up, yeah, so absolutely go for the bottom because we have a boss still pushing down the top. There's nobody that is going to be spared for the defense because they need to deal with this big threat into the top. So either way, they're going to lose out these gates. More towers. Level 15 now accomplished for Plato. A little bit more at their rate of experience puts them in the super sweet spot of 16 to 12 and 2 talent tiers of advantage.
Oh, and those are frightening, especially that level 16. It is a big one as well. Now Plato have taken down a lot of the structures in both the top and the bottom keep areas for their opponents, but Vortex did get a turn-in the middle of all this, so this is their time. This is their time to try to push these lanes back a bit, but unfortunately they kind of have to use it for defense. It's going to be a struggle to try to get these all the way up to the structures of Plato, who still have all their forts.
See, this is what I expected more. Now that you're seeing a 2-level lead and a bit, PBST leading the Bulls.
Oh yeah, definitely. Everyone's realizing the power of the Platos for sure. And already, like I mentioned, that middle web weaver goes down before even halfway into the lane. They're going to rotate around and just quickly clean these up. Maybe if Vortex can get lucky enough to get a second turn in, they can really start to work on those structures, but I don't know if Plato is going to give them that.
We have 50 gems on Johanna.
Oof.
Johanna, for Tazza, needs to actually do the engaging for his team. If he drops for any reason, that is 50 gems now on the floor.
Yeah, and it makes it a problem for them when they're trying to turn in because they want to have him out in front, but the other members don't want to be in front. That's Johanna. It just shouldn't be protected by anybody else, but they're going to move away fast. They have one Web Weaver remaining. It might actually get a fair amount of work done. They've at least picked up 13 talents, but look where PuPlato are in experience.
Yeah, they did pick up those 13s, but there's the 16, so it's not quite the super. It is just a regular sweet spot. And coming into this, the numbing blast, the crippling slam, as we have continued on with the butchers. And movement speed, invigoration, you talked about it earlier. Now crippling slam, like, oh man, 75% is a heck of a percent to add to your movement speed.
Oh, indeed. And looking at the 13 talents, Vortex are playing super defensively as we have 4 spell shields down and then prescience on Tassadar. So
4 spell shields?
Yeah, everybody else has a spell shield.
Okay, so I mean, Tazza, he can take spell shield, but there's almost never any reason to. Prescience will be your spell shield, but 4 other spell shields for Cloud9, they are really feeling the burn.
They are indeed. All right, well, they did at least get another turn in, so 2 in a row, they can maybe start getting a little more structure damage done, but PuPlato did a great job of pushing out some of these lanes. They've got the bottom lane pushed back out, and what they want to do is they really want to stagger these so that they're not pushing in all at the same time. They want to be able to take care of one, move down, and take care of another one before it gets to their structures. They still have all their forts up, but they might not be able to keep them up through this, but Vortex can't push in too far. They still don't have 16.
They don't have 16, but they did put down enough gems for these red web weavers, so that is definitely a load off of Taz's mind. He could absolutely engage, but as you said, 16 is a very daunting thing to engage into, and now, well, it looks like their decision is going to be made for them.
Yeah, PuPlato's moving in, the Ruthless Onslaught all the way into the back line. Syracuse does not get healed back up. The Ancestral does not connect. Now Tazza is very, very low, and Zagara will be going down as well. Tazza might not be able to get out of that. It looks like one final swing will be able to take him out, and even Rhaegar will go down. A 4 for nothing. Yes, there are Web Weavers pushing on forts in the bottom and mid, but hey, there is a keep about to be taken down for PuPlato.
I would totally take a keep if all I lost was a fort. Hey, you need 2 forts, because that's going to be catapult pressure. And then catapult pressure on a small map like this does not take long to start building up into those lanes. So a 4-man wipe, and Cloud9 Vortex, once again, very much on the back foot here. As soon as this guy goes down, could they actually go straight to the boss?
I think so. I mean, it's not up yet. I think we've got a little bit of time, before it will be up. But they're gonna choose to go for bruisers instead. They won't go for those aggressive ones.
They have more than enough for a turn in here as well.
Oh yes, they do indeed. Plenty of gems, so they can just pick up bruisers and push back their lanes a little bit. They want to help push the lanes so that the Web Weavers don't spawn so far back like we saw them do for Vortex. But their opponents are about to get. Oh, they actually did get the turn in while simultaneously pushing the lanes.
Multi-talented PPST when they're up 3 levels advantage. Now they are about to lose that advantage as 16 is just on the horizon here for Vortex. Finally, the full power of the comp can kind of come to fruition. But at the same time, PuPlato is 18 and a bit, which means that 20 is not that far off. And now with more Web Weavers, this is going to be pressure on keeps. And if any keep drops, it's just going to accelerate that team into that finish line of level 20. Yeah,
and we see PuPlato not too worried about pushing up at that top because they know that if they can really get those Web Weavers pushing in, that will just be so awesome for them. And especially if they could get that, they might be able to get boss, but unfortunately for Vortex, they're going to lose their front line. They've lost Johanna now, and a huge Ruthless Onslaught all the way in, throws down the Furnace Blast, doesn't take anybody out, except now Zagara will go down. So the Water Elemental will be the next one to come out. So many stuns. Poor Tassadar was stun locked for days, for so long. He couldn't really even hit any dimensional shifts, and will go down as well. 3 heroes down. Water Elemental says, hey guys, let's move to the core. I think everyone else is in agreement.
Yeah, 30 seconds or so. I mean, there's nothing really to stop these guys. The defender disadvantage is absolutely real. And Cloud9 Vortex do not look like they're going to be in a position to really do too much about this. So, game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, you said PPST at 44%, and they skyrocketed right through that pole, and rightly so, because they're going to take the first game of this game series. PuPlato some Tangos now leads over Cloud9 Vortex here in the lower bracket.
Man, just seeing the amount of stuns that PuPlato could put out on top of those members was terrifying, especially that Tassadar. Tassadar should not be that easy to take down, and they just stunned him for so long that that was the name of the game for them.
I quoted Tasteless, and you said, 50 years, but geez, like 50 seconds, that's the difference right there. And it did not take long at all. Once they had that power, Kubi, man, they did work with it.
They did. They looked super strong all game. I think the thing that I want to talk about is I heard you guys mentioning the spell shield.
Yes.
And they had 4 members with the spell shield during the game. And it really came down to how PPST wanted to play around that. So we're going to look at this replay, and that's the moment I want to pause. So what we have actually is right here with that Storm Bolt. The spell shield got procced. Now it lasts for 3 seconds, okay? So we see a good cleanse. We're actually going to advance to this part. We're going to see that she's able to retreat in this direction, and this is what's going to cause the Butcher to run in. So we can highlight this here. He runs in, but check out the timing of it. So let's advance it right from this point. Okay, here we go. And right there, that is the moment in which the spell shield wears off, and they're able to get that full bonus damage.
You know, this Butcher, he came onto the scene, and he had a very, very scary trailer. But seriously, this game, Plato, some Tangos, they did multiple charges like that.
Yeah, it's just so cool to see that exact timing in which they were able to play around that. And they knew that they were going into that, and it was a good counter to the strategy that they were being thrown up against. But being able to time it that exactly to blow that up and to force the Ancestral Healing to whiff, so smart.
My heart was a pitter-patter every time I saw him going like the distance. But could you imagine being the player on the ending side of that charge and Furnace Blast? Oh, man.
Terrifying.
Yeah, indeed. What I couldn't believe is that we did see the Butcher moving so far forward, and there was the opportunity to be able to maybe say, okay, he's too far forward, let's try to take him out really fast, but it was never the case. Plato did such a good job of being right behind him, making sure to keep him sustained so that he could take someone else out.
All right, so Hungering Arrow build aside, didn't really get a lot of value there from Cloud9 Vortex, but big Butcher value. Game number 2 is going to be coming up here in just a few, ladies and gentlemen. Will that be a draft ban coming forward? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But while we're taking a quick break, head on over to www.heroesofthestorm.com. You can find everything that we're talking about right there. Talk and interact with all of your fans. Watch maybe a few of those hero spotlights. They're quite good. And when we return, Game 2 of Plato, Some Tangos, and Cloud9 Vortex will be right here and waiting for you. We'll see you then.
If I'm not playing Heroes of the Storm, I'm either spending time with my family or trying to stay in shape so I can perform better inside the game.
I like collecting Funko Pop action figures, I like hiking, and I also really like going jogging.
I'm taking a class right now at a community college in the morning.
Right now my life is pretty much getting better Heroes of the Storm, getting better at the game, and trying to make a name for myself and my teammates.
I love all the Blizzard games, so I play StarCraft, WoW, Hearthstone.
Before moving to the house, I used to work a day job at Google. My family at first wasn't too supportive. They're not quite sure, like, oh, you have a nice job, you can just work your 9 to 5. They weren't even really aware that this was, so they were just really confused when I started talking to them about this at first. They're like, video games? Getting paid? What? No way.
I currently work in San Francisco as a research data analyst.
I love the outdoors, I love to kayak.
What do I do outside of Heroes of the Storm? That's a damn good question.
And it all comes down to this Stormwind champion versus Ogre Brute.
I'm feeling really good about Stormwind here.
Whoa.
Am I seeing this right?
Could be a scare tactic, Bob. Could be nerves.
I don't think scare tactics work with ogres.
You know from experience.
Okay, well, let's not get into my personal life.
Hold that thought. Looks like we have a substitution. It's Tinkmaster Overspark.
This guy's a very technical player. His game's about nuance, precision.
Whoa, that's Hearthstone.
Play free on your phone or PC.
Rated T for T.
To be the first, Hellscream. You were destined to be my greatest champion. And instead, you chose this. You have no vision. Behold, what a true seat of power demands. A citadel of hellish fire worthy of my masters. A monument to entomb the souls of all who would dare to defy us.
They will defy you. I have seen their forces in battle. They are fearless. does not matter what vile creatures you summon to the battle. They will persevere. Their resolve is unbreaking. They will come. They will fight. And they will wash their blades of your blood in victory.
Fight if you must, Hellscream. It is no matter. In the end, we all serve the Legion.
Oh man, Gul'dan looking all intense right there, just like game number 1 of this series, because game number 2, again, PoolPlato some Tangos, kind of coming out of nowhere. They got into June, now they're here in July, and they're putting the hurt to Cloud9 Vortex. And you know, the beginning of that vote, Gilly, not a lot of people had that confidence, but by the end, I think they have a lot of new fans.
Oh yeah, I think they definitely do as well. I think a lot of people are very surprised to see PoolPlato not only show such a good showing versus Tempo Storm. No, they didn't take a game off of them, but they definitely brought the pain, and they definitely did to Vortex as well in that last game.
Absolutely. So, Kubi, let's talk about some of these players, because, I mean, you know, if you didn't watch June, maybe you're not so aware of them. If you've been under a rock, maybe you don't know who Cloud9 Vortex is.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more in depth about Cloud9 Vortex and, actually, change of plans real quick. We are going to talk about KingPlato real quick for PPST. Yes, he likes to play that Jaina and gets a lot of plays on that. He enjoys traveling and has visited over 10 countries.
That's more than me.
Howdy that. Yeah, that's
Gilly, you're quite the travel bug. Can you beat 10 countries?
I definitely cannot beat 10 countries. Apparently, KingPlato also loves to cook as well.
Well, that's just a great life skill that everybody should have.
Yep, I agree.
You can't eat
maybe you
Heroes
can
of
bring
the
us some
Storm.
food.
That's true. You're right about that.
Now, on the flip side, Gilly, who do we have for our red team player?
It looks like we will have Syracuse for Cloud9 Vortex, who has a fantastic beard, I might add. The most picked hero is going to be Nova, and he played varsity football as a freshman.
All right, I'm more actually upset about that second part, because I've never even done one of those, Kubi.
I can't even bowl over 100. This guy, 30 perfect games. Like, are you serious?
We will stick in the 100 bracket, me and you. Good job, Syracuse, putting us to shame. But 30 games of perfect bowling, that is quite the physical feat.
Man, that is intense. Just as intense as Heroes of the Storm.
All right. Yeah. So, intense Gul'dan, intense Syracuse, intense game. What are we about to see? Well, game number 2 here, it looks like, I believe, it's going to be Sky Temple.
Yeah, so I think the draft is ready to go, so we'll find out what heroes they're going to pick in particular for this battleground that is Sky Temple.
Awesome.
We've seen it many times today, and of course it's very important to have that area control and also the mobility, so we'll see how that factors into this draft.
Always good to be right about the battleground as we go into it, but it does look like first pick, first ban for Vortex will be Kael'thas, and bading, it's no Zeratul once more.
Of course, so Vortex, Kubi mentioned the area control, and Kael'thas is great at that, especially with that Phoenix, so Vortex are going to take him out. It also means they don't have to fear quite as much for a late game potential. Maybe they're looking to bring the pain in late game themselves with an Asmodean, but for now they're going to choose to first pick Jaina, something that we've seen several times throughout the day.
Surprise, surprise, a strong hero Jaina is, and she does get picked up first once again. But what is the response from PoolPlato's
Mirrodin.
Mirrodin, and...
Yep.
And hold it.
Show us the money. Show us
it's gotta
the
be
money.
It's got to be Toronto,
Come
right?
on.
The combo has been so strong for PoolPlato, some Tangos up to this point.
Yep.
They had a great showing. There it is. They had such a great showing against Tempo Storm.
Kubi.
You mentioned that, Gillyweed, and just how much pressure they were able to put on Tempo Storm. I think that they're looking very set to have a 2-0 victory over Vortex, but not before we see the rest of their draft and what they are going to bring to sort of answer that.
All right, so if Cloud9 Vortex has to deal with a Butcher, as in there's not going to be a ban, but they have to kind of suffer through it because of the threat there, Uther is probably your best support to kind of deal with that, because whoever gets charged in is going to have that Divine Shield. He can stun as well, and of course, he'll heal you if you're kind of down on your luck.
Yeah, we saw Vortex last time have trouble with capitalizing on the Butcher being so far forward with some of those crazy long ruthless onslaughts. So if they can throw the Divine Shield down and then be able to stun him, then all of a sudden Jaina can turn around and throw a ton of damage of her own. Vortex are going to round out their composition with Johanna, and now we'll see the next set of bans come in, Kubi?
That's the second Sylvanas ban in a row?
That is, yes. So we do see Sylvanas taken out once more, and there's the response. Butcher taken out of the potential pool of heroes that PoolPlato some Tango can grab. I think that makes a lot of sense based on what we just saw.
It's a heck of a threat to leave Tyrande in that pick before those bans. And I mean, Cloud9 Vortex, they just don't want to deal with it. So what else would your backup plan be here, Gilly?
For PoolPlato some Tangos? Yep. Well, I think that it's possible. It looks like they're just going to go with some standard damage in this case. They're realizing now, okay, we can't have the Butcher. We don't have that Uther to go along with it. So instead, we're going to flip a switch a little bit and go into some sustained damage here.
All right, so Zagara and Vanna, all right, I can get behind that. So Cloud9 Vortex, this is their chance to kind of finish up. Abathur, this is the second Sky Temple Abathur we've seen today.
Yeah, and plus the Johanna, a great target. Also, the Ultimate Evolution paired up with the Jaina. This was a combination that worked out pretty well last we saw it, and I have no qualms that this will be also a strong, synergy to deal with.
And Bobbyhankhill looking very confident on that Tazza there.
Indeed he was, and he will have the possibility for a mule as well. So take the fact that they're going to have constant aggression with that Abathur, constant lane push, but then also protecting their own lanes with the possibility of a possible mule. That's going to be very nice for them as, like Kubi's mentioned before, those temples, they directly attack your structures.
Yep, so both sides can actually go for those mules. The last pick here is going to be a Malfurion, so that's
2 mules potentially on each side.
Yeah, 4 mules total. Now, they don't actually stack anymore. Once upon a time,
that's true.
We had some silly double, triple, quadruple builds. Again, once upon a time. You can't do that anymore. So if they do pick up mules, only expect to see one hero on each side to do it.
But very, very important for those teams to do that, just based on how the map or the battleground objective really works. And, it's just constant, unavoidable damage onto the structure. So being able to heal those back up can really sort of set the tone, or in terms of the pacing, making use of those objectives.
All right, so we've talked about this. We're going to Sky Temple. You guys don't know what Sky Temple is? Well, Gilly here, she's got the lowdown.
All right, here's the overview for Sky Temple, one of our newer battlegrounds in the pool. This is a large battleground. It's got 3 lanes. It might be the biggest, I think, in the pool as well. So there's a lot of potential for Abathur to really get a lot of work done. There's going to be also a few mercenary camps, siege giants, and bruisers on each side, as well as a neutral boss in the center. The objective for this battleground will be to capture and hold these temples. As long as you're holding them, they will shoot lasers at your enemy's fortifications. But there will be temple guardians that will spawn, and also, of course, your opponents will be coming in, trying to push you off of these temples, trying to protect their structures from that temple onslaught.
So something does come back to mind. Back in June for the top 4, we had Complexity take an Abathur on this map. He had a little bit of a weirder build. It was a bit more of a backdoor build. We don't see that often anymore. A lot of people do go with the battle builds. But he had the mule, and that mule was the saving grace on that map to get them into that top 4.
That is why mule is MVP, especially on this battleground in particular, like you were mentioning. And it's just all about that damage mitigation. I think the core got down to something ridiculous, like 4%, 2%, and they were able to heal it back up enough to have that cushion to push across the map. So who knows, maybe we'll see something similarly close. I certainly hope we can expect that. The caliber of teams is there. They are very well matched, so this will be a great match, I know.
All right, so something that I do have a little bit of a concern here, Gilly. I think this is the first time PoolPlato does not have a melee assassin.
They do not. So they don't really have that melee assassin to follow up on the Tyrande and the Muradin. But let's take a look at one of their players and see how they might mitigate this. We're going to look at Mookiez, who is the support player for PoolPlato some Tangos. Most picked hero is Lily.
What?
I know.
That might have to do with what they were up against in the the qualifier rounds up to this round of 8, and it was a very strategy that a lot of teams were running, sort of doing that support choke, and it's very possible that their team more often than not was forced to pick Lily. Not always ideal based on the fact that she can be stunned out of her healing heroic, but they seem to make it work, as they did manage to get into this top 8, and they are looking strong despite being in the lower bracket.
I am just going to rue the day that we see new meta of Water Dragon Lily. It's like, oh, you can stun my jugs? Have a Water Dragon.
Damage Lily is totally a thing.
One day, guys. One day.
Mark our words. Let's take a look at another player as well. We're going to check out TigerJK. So this player is, like you mentioned, the newest player for Cloud9 Vortex. Most picked hero is going to be Falstad, so another one that we don't see too often. And he hasn't had a soda in over 7 years. How do you do it,
Stay strong, Edward. Stay strong.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of time, but just that he's got that in mind, you know, like it's been 7 years to the day since I had a soda. Seems very particular, but good for him.
I wonder if there's groups for like soda recovery guys. It's like, I had a soda, I don't know what to do anymore. It's just my whole streak, it's gone.
I don't know what I would do without a soda every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, everyone has their own preferences. He also went to cooking school too. This is the second time we've had an interesting point of cooks.
Maybe that's not really a nerd-focused type of hobby.
So
that you would
everybody
have.
should have that one? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. Everyone should, you know, maybe check out culinary school or at least develop the hobby, maybe.
There's some kind of correlation between playing Heroes of the Storm and being a good cook? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Maybe if you've got that Stitches outfit. Chef Stitches? Anybody? No. All right, fine. Moving on.
If I walked into my kitchen and I saw Chef Stitches, I'm probably not going to eat whatever he gives me, Kubi.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I'm going to go with the aesthetics over the taste on that one. But you know, again, you know, we're talking about all these players. Why not just see a little bit of a video about Cloud9 Vortex, because they had a few things here to say. Let's hear them.
Cloud9 Vortex right now, we believe that Dragonshire, Cursed Hollow, and Garden of Terror are probably our strongest maps. We do very well with large-scale rotations and taking the game to the mid and late game. We have a complete database of all of our pick and bans from the past 3 months, and we look to that to really revise what we want to specifically target against each team that we're competing against.
Not a bad way to go. If you know your team's, the enemy's strengths, you know their weaknesses, specifically targeted, that has won many a match these days.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they do know their opponents here. We'll have to see, as we do have a second game.
We do have a second game, and actually this was something we talked about just before. It's just like, does Cloud9 Vortex actually know who Plato something is?
Exactly.
Because they got the butcher. It's just like that last big butchered game number 1. It's like, who allows your opponents to do that? Did they watch the games earlier? Knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is half the battle, but I can appreciate that they are quite the statisticians. Oh, yeah, I butchered that word. Oh, God, I'm 2 for 2. Let's go. But yeah, no, the fact that they are able to keep those stats is so important. I think a lot of teams should look to do that. Make sure that they're tracking which heroes, maybe they're relying on too much, which heroes for their team, not necessarily which heroes are strong, but having those win percentages is always a good thing to know.
Not only did they let Plato have the butcher in the last draft, but they also kind of gave the perfect butcher support system as well. You know, they had the Tyrande Muradin, they also had a Jaina, and then they had, I believe, the Uther as well. That's just so terrifying. But what I do like is that we have to have these teams able to adapt mid-match, as if you do go down a game, you're still able to come back in the series, and we're seeing that in this draft. Yes, they've given the Tyrande and the Muradin, but they've banned out the Butcher. They took the Uther. They're kind of pulling apart that strategy that really won Plato the game last time.
And, you know, you said adaptation mid-match. I would even say adaptation mid-game. What did we see at level 13 when you're 3 levels down? We saw 4 spell shields. Now, that is not, you know, a big common thing that you see on, for example, Vela, because she's a bit more of an assassin. If you're leading, you're probably not going to go into the spell shield. But because they were so far down, they knew that they needed the survivability. So Cloud9, not slouches at this game, despite the fact that they did just lose out 1-0. There's still plenty of chances for them to come back, because Sky Temple is going to be there first. And, well, if they don't do it, it's probably going to be their only.
That's a very good point. This battleground is very much important for Cloud9 Vortex to take a victory on. Yeah, we were talking about the spell shield. I think it was very important that they were playing around that. And yes, it was sort of a response to what was going on. But the fact that they were proccing it with some of the shorter range spells, we saw the range upgrade for Butcher's hamstring ability. I think that if you had the foresight to pick that because of the potential for 4 spell shields, kudos to that, because that is a strong play.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough talk. It's time to get to work, because we have the game ready to go here on Sky Temple. On the left-hand side, it will be currently up 1-0 Plato, some Tangos, bkid getting that Mirrodin again, Gilly. Does he play anything else? I'm a little curious.
I don't think he does if he can help it. He definitely shows how strong he is with those Storm Bolts, nailing those skill shots. Mirrodin will be played by bkid. We also have Tyrande played by KingPlato. Zagara played by Apauloh. Vala will be played by Prismaticism. And rocking the Malfurion, we will have the Mookiez.
All right, and guys that need to put a point on this board or go home with their cash settlement, it is Cloud9 Vortex, TigerJK playing Jaina, Zixz once more on the Uther, Johanna and Tazza are BFFs. Syracuse is the guy that drew the short stick for Abathur, and Bobbyhankhill once more on his very comfortable Tazza.
Syracuse is a pretty strong Abathur player, so he might actually be very happy with this here. I mean, he really gets to go in and do a lot of damage with that symbiote. And we mentioned before, that combination with both Abathur and Johanna is so huge, as all of a sudden you have not only a warrior who never has to really leave the battle, but you've got a ton of damage coming out from Abathur as well.
All right, we've seen this before, Zagara and Tassadar. That's a very back and forth, but Oracle will trump Creep Tumor, but at the same time, don't expect to see either of those players leave that bottom lane, because on this battleground, we're going to have the top and the middle actually spawn into the obelisk, because that's where the top and the middle are likely going to start fighting over them. But the bottom lanes, traditionally, at least at this level of play, they don't really seem to budge out of that one. So it's probably going to be Apauloh budging up a bit farther, but Bobbyhankhill is not going to give that ground easily.
Ooh, look at the vote now. Everybody's suddenly a fan of Plato some Tangos. We'll have to see if Vortex can bring it back a little bit with some strong Abathur Johanna play, or Jobathur, as I like to call it.
Jobathur, all right. So yeah, I mean, once you have the unstoppable Jaina, what's up there, or Johanna up in your face, why not put a nice Canadian toque on that from Abathur as well? Now you got damage and the survivability, no problem. Syracuse just doing what he loves.
Indeed. All right, well, we do have the first temple phase starting, and for now we're seeing a trade, an even trade on these temples. Up top, we do have Johanna. That's going to be really difficult for Vala to try to push her off, but Prismatic is going to try her best. Meanwhile, in the bottom, we're having a little bit more, or mid, we're having a little bit more of a contention here. Even Zagara is going to come up to try to help.
Yeah, that's kind of curious that Zagara would actually abandon that lane. Syracuse has actually now deep tunneled into the bottom. That's his mount that he's allowed to do, so this has freed up Tassadar to come up, which is very likely what prompted Zagara. It's like, oh, well, my partner's gone, I better tail him, because that is what good rotational players do.
Vala is going to be able to push off, or was going to be able to push Johanna off, but she's back with Uther. She's got a buddy this time, and they're going to be able to get, looks like, the rest of those shots, as there's only a few left before the final 5. So it looks like, I think they mostly traded, I believe, these first temples.
Yeah, the top not looking very well, but same neither here into the mid. Actually, I would actually say PPST got a little bit of a better trade going back and forth, but at the same time, yeah, not a huge advantage either way. Apauloh has come back into the bottom lane. This is, I think, the third time that we've seen him on Zagara here today as well, so very, very preferable that he gets those big comfort picks, because he just absolutely adores this hero.
Yeah, it seems like Plato really does gravitate to those comfort picks, but I'm looking at the first talent for Jaina, and it's actually Winter's Reach, so that's not necessarily a comfort pick that we see for a Jaina. She's going to be focusing on having a bit of an extended range for that Frostbolt here, and some of the other talents that we're going to have, once again, Mental Acuity for that Tassadar, that's going to really help with trying to clear out that creep, make sure they continually have as much vision as Plato does.
And again, at level 4, Jaina, I mean, she has that reach on the Frostbolt, but she also has the radius on the Blizzard. I'm curious to see what she's going to get at 13-16 as well, for that will diverge a little bit from the norm. What else is going down back and forth? Tyrande is really going for that Hunter's Mark. She has the Protective Shield. It's a Thunderclap build coming out of Mirrodin. A little bit more sustain coming out from Zagara with the level 1, that Reconstitution. We'll have to see at level 7 if she's going to go for the bigger and the beefier Creep Tumors, because here's level 7 now. And again, you know, pretty much neck and neck going back and forth. Not a lot of rotations going down, but we will have a bottom shrine spawning soon, which is why you see Tazza and TigerJK preparing their top advance.
Yeah, teams really like to pick up the bruisers as we get close to that bottom temple spawn, which is always the second phase. If the hope is that you can get those bruisers pushing and force your opponents into trying to decide whether to defend that push or to go go for that bottom temple. But both teams for now are going to pick up those bruisers, so it won't be quite so contentious that way.
Now, so far we still actually have 2 teammates from Vortex into the top lane. They're not leaving as of yet. This will put them at a position of disadvantage when that temple is about to spawn here in, well, 1 second. And you can already see, you know, Zagara, she's putting down a lot of those Creep Tumors into the bottom lane. She does have the bigger and beefier creeps. Like, look at this spread. It's just an absolute...
man.
This is her blanket. And she is just snuggled up, all comfortable in her blanket. But that blanket also includes that bottom temple. And again, without that presence, 2 into the top means that Cloud9 Vortex cannot contest this.
Oh, and instead they're trying to go... Plato are going to go for a Tazza pickup, but Dimensional Shift will go through. We do have Deep Shift once again for Tazza, so it was a nice long shift to be able to get away from all of those stuns. Up top, looks like Vortex are content to give up that temple, instead moving in, trying to pick up a takedown on this keep. Will we see Plato sort of rotate in and do the same on bottom? I don't know if they'll be able to pick it up just with the temple alone.
Well, it kind of comes down to, did Zagara do enough damage to the gates in order for this tower to kind of seal the deal into the bottom lane? And if they do, that means they're going to start working away at mid, which has already suffered because of the first temple spawns. So I would really expect Plato some Tangos to kind of, do some kind of bigger push into this bottom lane, but it doesn't actually look like enough was done, so all the forts will keep standing for now.
Well, we do have a mule for both sides, and that's helped keep both of those forts up as well. So we just have, it looks like, all the forts. It could be a longer bit of a Sky Temple game. Will we get to see the interesting triple temple phase?
That kind of does drag it out a long time. I mean, you have to be at, I think, 25 minutes plus, and we've only had one game that long so far, and I believe that was actually Garden of Terror, which... So, we didn't see it in June, only seen it once so far. Will we see it again? That is a big question, but level 10 is now here for both sides, the heroics on both sides. What do we got?
Well, for Plato, some Tangos, we are going to have the Devouring Maw, Strafe, Tranquility, Avatar, and the Starfall for Tyrande. And it looks like they are trying to push in and maybe take out this fort, but meanwhile, they're going to lose Vala thanks to a great rotation from Vortex.
Caught a little off guard right there. I mean, everybody else was into the bottom lane. I don't know where her invitation, fell into, but Bobbyhankhill, he's going to put up that aggression. Already the Archon Blessed Shield coming out there as well for the stuns. The Condemn into that Blizzard, and the Maw going down. It's just not going to be enough. This is going to be somebody dropping, but I'm going to eat crow on that one, Gilly.
The Tranquility came out and kept everyone alive, and it looks like we might actually even have a turnaround here. Syracuse, that is just the Abathur clone, so they aren't actually going to lose their Jaina player just yet. But Plato really, really want this bottom fort. They know that if they don't get it, the Mule is going to heal it right back up, so they've got to try to take it out.
On a 4v5, well, 4v6, well, no, 5, all right. For that Ultimate Evolution coming in with double Jaina, I'm really impressed that Plato kind of, juggled out their hit points enough that nobody went down there. That's big props for them.
The Maw got a couple of people in, the Tranquility came out and was uncontested thanks to being behind the gate. It was really great positioning all around from Plato. Now, speaking of positioning, we're going to have another couple of temples spawning. It looks like it will be bottom, which I'm thinking Plato will gravitate to since they already have it completely covered in creep.
And they're already on it, as you said. So there goes that bottom fort. Now they're going to be working on the mid. The mid, from the very first temple's point, is not doing so well, and you can already see it working its way. Cloud9 not content just to kind of let their second fort go down. Nobody is into the top lane, as you notice.
No, not at all. Instead, we really want to try to just contest this. We've seen a lot of teams working on contesting the temples. And by the way, only one fort has fallen this entire game so far. So both teams really overworking those mules even, and pretty even trade out so far for those temples.
All right, Jaina's actually going to be pushing off Prismatic, had the Abathur, had through the Water Elemental there as well. Do we actually have that Ultimate Evolution ready to go? That's a big question for me, so if it's not, that's probably why you're not seeing Cloud9 actually going for a big engage right there, because they need that double Jaina for that extra burst potential ready to go. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it was ready to go at all, and now there goes the bottom fort, there goes the mid, and now we have a full temple still left spawned into the top.
So although we do have a mule on the Vortex side, Plato is slowly starting to make some of these structured takedowns stick, not being able to heal them back up. And that does afford them a little bit of a level lead. They've picked up 13, their 13 talents. And so Vortex has to play a little bit passively. They're going to have to give up this temple unless they can get the rotation in. It looks like they do see Zagara in the mid, so that is something that Plato have to be watching out for when fighting here. Will she come up? It looks like she is going to come around, maybe try to get a good Devouring Maw on some of these members, be able to pick it up. The Stormbolt goes out from bkid, not going to be enough, although Avatar is taking some damage there.
Yeah, the other thing is that it's kind of ticking down. He's not going to have it for too much longer. Blessed Shield will set us up the bomb, but unfortunately the bomb was a dud, and it does not look like there's going to be a big follow-through. Zagara into the bottom left actually had the double Jaina in that Maw. Out goes that Abathur clone. It's not going to be a big factor, and the multi-shots are just near enough to bring 2 more team members here close to that takedown status, and Plato, some Tango will once again rebuff Cloud9 Vortex and take the rest of these shots. Probably going to take that fort just for good measure. That's going to be very close to level 15.
Oh, yes, it is. And Vala had such an amazing strafe in that battle, so that really helped them be able to throw out a ton of damage, force Vortex back. And you mentioned the multi-shot build. A lot of times we see the Vala with the Hungering Arrow build, but for this, where they need to be able to throw out a ton of damage on those closed-in places, that's going to be nice. Unfortunately, they may be a little too overextended here, as Tazza's going to come in, try to pick somebody up. Blind goes down, and Condemn's going to pull bkid back in, but he can dwarf toss away. So far, still, we haven't lost anybody from Plato.
Yeah, but look at KingPlato himself. He's getting big ice block right there. They turn her right around on top of Tyrannus. She thought that she had a little bit of an edge, but nope, ice block is really, really good. So I was going to say, Tyrannus is actually getting slowed out really heavily here by Tiger, so she would be the big target to drop, and as you saw, she is actually going to drop. So this will put us into level 13 for Vortex. They do got that next talent tier ready to go, and as well, they're going to be picking up those bruisers.
Yeah, and they also picked up the Soma Transference talent for Abathur, which is so nice. Every time the Spike Burst hits, it heals the host for every enemy hit as well. So he can put that on the Johanna or somebody else, definitely, but especially Johanna being up in front. And Johanna already a hero who never goes down. Good luck taking her down, Plato.
Yeah, that health return is absolutely sick, especially level 1, because you lower the cooldown, you increase the radius, it hits more heroes as time goes on, and it gets stronger and stronger. So we do have a bit of a battle build. We do actually have Abathur picking up the mule for the team, though. So we do have the mule on each side, Tyrannus on one side, Abathur on the other, and you've been seeing it do work. That anytime you see kind of a green rotating wrench, that's the mule at work, and we have seen it kind of a little bit of value going back and forth. Cloud9 Vortex no longer nearly as behind as they were. They have actually done a pretty good job using the double soak of Abathur to kind of stay relevant, but they are still looking down the barrel of a level 16.
Yeah, it's nowhere near the disparity that we had last game, the 13-16, but we do have Plato about to pick up those talents, and there they are. So they definitely have a window to make something happen here. They've also got a good push on top, and Vortex are saying, yeah, with those talents, we're going to just go ahead and rotate up, push this lane back, and leave you guys alone for a little bit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, level 16 is here. Who do you think will win? Tweet us with the hashtag HeroesWC and use one of the hashtags for the teams PPST or C9 Vortex. The big boss is marching down. You got to put their voice into that poll, because this is the time. Are you going to be right or are you going to be wrong?
Indeed, and it's looking very good for Plato, so it looks like a lot of you are voting correctly so far, as they did pick up that boss completely uninhibited. No attack from Vortex. Yeah, no attack from Vortex at all.
All right, so on the back of that, there's a boss pushing the bottom. They're pushing themselves into the mid. Level 16 still not here for Cloud9 Vortex. They are just kind of scurrying about. They need that little bit of extra experience, but even when they get it, we have a temple spawning in 15 seconds. As soon as we take down this gate, you're going to see Plato Tango go to try to secure that location, because they are going to start working on this bottom with that boss, with those lasers.
Yeah, in that bottom temple, it's definitely really nice to be the first ones to set up there, because it is a little bit harder to engage into and to try to get out of. So if you can get a really good setup there, get a lot of vision from the creep as well, then when Vortex try to come in and try to stop this, they really have to funnel through one of those 2 bushes there, and that's a place where Plato can make a lot happen. They can hit a Maw, they can throw down the Starfall as well. They've got a lot of opportunities. They even have Tenacious Roots picked up for Malfurion as well.
And that's the big thing right there. As soon as they go into that bush, the Tenacious Roots, big roots to stop you right there, and it could be game over as soon as that follow-up does kind of bring itself forward. So we're going to need a double Jaina here, Syracuse. He's been throwing down some of those traps, but if there's any hope for Cloud9 Vortex, it's going to be on the back of that clone and a really clean engage right here.
Indeed, it is. Both teams posturing. Plato did come out from the temple. They realized that they want to just be able to have everyone here not get split out. And bkid is moving in. The Tenacious Roots do go down. Don't grab anybody, though. It is a little bit of a longer timer. And there is the Devouring Maw. Doesn't hit anybody, and Zagara goes down. The Tranquility was not enough to keep her up. Unfortunately, that Starfall is doing mad work. Johanna is down. The clone is down. bkid's working like mad to get Uther on top of it. He's going to aggressively dwarf toss in, but Bobbyhankhill has that prescience, is going to be able to move out.
You can really see the value of that deep shift right there from Bobbyhankhill. I mean, a lot of people have a good 3-second timing as bkid. Thinks he might actually be able to, solidify this next takedown, but 4.5 seconds, you can get a lot of distance out of that. And Bobbyhankhill, he's going to pay off with that as the only survivor out of that engage. Jaina will, however, take a little bit of a nap, and she'll return in just about 45 seconds. Now, what does this mean for Plato some Tangos? Well, there's a temple on the board, as well as a free keep for the take.
Yeah, they are going after this keep, and it's so nice to be able to push like this and then grab the temple, because you're not going to waste any of those shots on a structure that you could have already taken down. So really great showing of prioritizing these objectives from Plato, who are going to grab that first keep. And as we get further and further into this, it does look like Plato are eking out a win here in this vote.
It's fluctuating. 69-71. A lot of supporters still there for Cloud9 Vortex in the long run, but I mean, actions are louder than words, and the actions here of Plato some Tango in this lower bracket are saying 71% are going to see that 2-0 on the board.
I mean, it just really comes down to structures. Look at what we have. A keep down for Vortex. No forts remaining. One single fort down for Plato some Tangos. They've done a really great job of pushing in and mitigating the potential heal from Vortex, who haven't really been able to do the same.
Level 19 and a bit. Looking for that level 20, and still, as you said, a lot of infrastructure down. A lot of that experience has kind of been put into the pocket there of Plato some Tangos. They basically have the high road at this point. They just need to kind of sit back a little bit. Did they take the second keep on that as well?
They did
indeed. And that is going to catapult them to 20.
Oh man, they are so close to 20 now. Vortex really wanted to maybe make something happen, but their window is closed, and they realize that they're moving back. They're trying to defend their lanes. They're trying to keep anything from being able to get close to their core. But Plato, meanwhile, doing the same. Both teams rotating around, just trying to push whatever lane they possibly can. Plato looks like they've got their eyes set on that final keep.
And the final keep is definitely a prize at this point, because look at this top lane push. They got the bruisers. They got a pretty big creep wave coming down now as well. Tazza, really far forward. Zixz, he's just thinking, don't want to deal with this. Vulnerability coming out the cleanse. The stuns are not enough to keep Tazza down yet, but big damage and a big mob.
Tazza is still alive, but so low, and now gets rooted. Does not have the iron skin, and also does not have the indestructible talent as well. Uther is down, and also doesn't have redemption. And on top of that, bkid is running in, going to be able to take out Jaina, and I think the clone is down as well. So it's only Uther, Bobbyhankhill, and Tazza remaining, as the Uther Ghost is now gone. And this is a great point for Plato to push in. They've got those storm talents, they've got extra damage, they've got that sustainability, and they only have one more keep to get through before the core is completely exposed.
Believe in the power of the mule. Oh, it's gone. No believing there. Mookiez saying no dice this time, but again, a big team fight going the way of Plato. It's kind of crazy to think it's only 5 kills to 3 as they go back and forth, so much, but it's such low numbers. Even if they can't win the core right here, there's nothing to stop this double temple phase from going to Plato some Tangos, and that is enough to win a game, Gilly.
That is indeed. They will be able to go straight there. We still don't have Uther up quite yet. It looks like maybe they're even going to, they could possibly go for the boss. It's also up as well. How can Cloud9 Vortex deal with this? What will they choose to do?
Well, it's hard to kind of call the correct call at this point, but you need to try to bully at least one of the lanes. You have a mule. One temple is not going to be enough to take down that core from 100% plus shields plus a mule. It's just not going to happen. Abathur can even shield out the core repeatedly with that carapace once he does actually put the Abathur hat on it, which, looks awesome, but it's very functional. So you have to make sure that both points don't go to Plato, and well, they're trying.
They are indeed, but Bobbyhankhill is already very low, as is Jaina, who has to go. Oh yeah, that was the Divine Shield on the clone. I think that was their last-ditch effort. Johanna is down, so is Uther. This was not the time that they wanted to fight, but they had to do so. They didn't have Storm Talents, but they had to try to make something happen. Unfortunately for them, it just did not.
So 2 temples, but Plato is not going to need it with a total takedown count of 3 against them. Cloud9 Vortex are not able to hold, and the voting, the polls, the users, you guys are totally correct. Congratulations. 2-0 as Plato some Tangos eliminates Cloud9 Vortex from the July North American Opens, and they will continue on for their tournament life into the next round.
They did indeed. I mean, the showing from Plato is so impressive to me. Not only did they do such a great job versus Tempo Storm, but now they just took out Cloud9 Vortex 2-0. They did such a fantastic job. They really just controlled those lanes, even versus the Abathur as well. The double Jaina seemed to have no effect on them as well. Really great job by them picking their engagements, showing that even though they may not be rotating around with the crazy Butcher, they still can get a lot done with all those stuns.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody invulnerable a clone before, Kubi.
Yeah, that's a new one. I would say that's probably something we haven't seen too much of. All right, so for this replay, guys, it was a fairly passive game, I will say, on both sides. Not a lot of giant fights on either side. But what I want to highlight with this replay in particular is the support role. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to pause it right about there. And I want to actually give a big set of props to this guy right here. That is going to be Mookiez, right? And what he does is he sets up this fantastic route. What the play is that they want to do, Vortex is looking to hit a very nice condemn. They're trying to pull in, and they actually land it. They get many, many people in this, and the idea is to have the Archon follow this up with some storms, static charge, and get, it does splash damage as well. Look at the route, though. It's just now hitting the Archon. It stalls them out long enough for the remaining members of PPST to split up. So we're going to clear this. We'll play it forward. And yes, you can see they're able to buy time to split up before the Archon can get in there. On top of that, he gets an excellent tranquility that's able to keep the remaining members of his team alive. This was probably the biggest fight. And from this point forward, they were able to just really steamroll the rest of the game.
Yeah, you're right. Because, I mean, they were level 17-17, but by the end of the race to 20, it was 20-18. So that means that, using that fight, they catapulted and just huge strengths going to these guys.
And just kudos to Mookiez again, because we don't get to call out the support role all that often. Sometimes it's a good cleanse here and there, but all of the skill shots in that fight were on point, able to keep his team alive, able to keep the enemy members out. So kudos to that. We were able to turn that around.
So, Cloud9 Vortex coming back into this, Plato, some Tangos coming back into this, as a repeat performers from June into July. I don't think a lot of people saw that Cloud9 Vortex would be the ones to drop here in the first set of lower bracket games, but that is unfortunately the case, Gilly. And as we are about to update you, if you don't know what the brackets look like, we got the QB here to get you covered.
Okay, so we can see in the lower bracket, it is actually PPST that is now able to move forward. Yes, and they're going to be trying to set their route forward. I just like drawing arrows on the bracket here. Yeah, you guys can see that. But yeah, so these teams are going to have to move through this lower bracket. They have to beat the team that goes up through the winner's bracket undefeated. They have to beat them twice to move forward. But that's just a good snapshot of the bracket at this point.
All right, so Pool Plato, some Tangos, they will continue on. Who are we going to see next, Ms. Gilly?
Well, next we are going to see the next lower bracket match, which will be Cognitive Gaming versus 2Arc. So at the end of that, we will have another team who will be eliminated from this bracket. From that, we will hop back into the winners round, the winners bracket, as we will have Tempo Storm facing the Goon Squad and Complexity versus Cloud9 Maelstrom.
All right, so 3 best-of-3s left for today's broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Still lots of heroes for you to enjoy. Go grab a friend, bring them on back, because we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we will have Cognitive and 2Arc facing off in the July North American Open. We'll see you in a few.